CNBC-TV18, embarking on a quarter century of excellence.
Hello and welcome to Global Eye. Global growth in times of geopolitical uncertainty and how India can be a generator for global growth. That's the topic we will be discussing here on Global Eye today. And this is coming at a time when RBI has raised the GDP growth forecast to 7% versus 6.5% earlier. They've also kept the repo rate unchanged at 6.5%. To discuss about India's growth story and the global trends we need to watch out for are Professor Mohan Kankanhalli, Dean of NUS School of Computing. We have Professor Arthur Robris, Professor of Finance and Director, IMD World Competitiveness Index, Professor Ricardo Hosman, Director Growth Lab at Harvard, and Professor Mikolaj Piskorski, Professor Digital Strategy and Dean, IMD Asia and Oceania Region. Professor Arturo, I'd like to ask you about the World Competitiveness Index. India was ranked 40 in the index this year. How do you see India's progression so far? What do we need to do in terms of coming in the top 10 economies?
In our ranking, I would mention 4 countries that are seen as the most promising economies of the future. Mexico, Turkey, Saudi Arabia and India. And I would add Vietnam as well. Even though it's not in our ranking, but clearly one of the economies that is going to grow the fastest in the region. I think unlike Mexico or Turkey, I think India has the right political system and the political consensus that you need to make the reforms that are needed, as this is an asset. I think unlike Saudi Arabia, there is a lack of capital. And I think one of the aspects that I always mention is that financial sector and banks are very important for the development of a country. And I would go number 1 priority is to develop a financial system and a financial industry that helps attract the capital that is needed to implement the right reforms. In contrast with a country like Saudi Arabia, I think India, though, possesses an amazing talent. And I think the talent pool of this country is truly impressive. And it's a comparative advantage with respect to China, that actually develop in a different way. And I think that should be the second priority, is to make sure that the talent that this country prepares doesn't leave. Because India is also a significant net exporter of talent, actually the biggest in the world in our ranking. And I think retaining that talent is going to be relevant as well. And finally, I want to mention, as usual, the typical pillar of competitiveness in the long run, which is the quality of the infrastructure. And the country is making amazing progress. That's one of the reasons why we see we see India as a very, very promising economy, but it also needs to focus on the intangibles of the infrastructure. It's not just about building roads and airports. It's also about developing the right scientific and technological infrastructure, and also to prepare the talent that the labor market needs.
Professor Piskorski, if I were to ask you about the importance of digital transformation, information and innovation, how has India done so far? Because at the G20, we showcased the India Stack, India's digital public infrastructure to the world, said that we are willing to partner with other nations as well. But what more do we need to do?
I think even before we go to digital, which I'll address in a minute, I think I want to underscore a lot of what was said by my predecessor colleagues here. I think one of the things that you're seeing in India right now, which you alluded to earlier, is the importance of short-term growth, and the short-term growth is very important to long-term growth. After all, India is trying to become the 3rd largest economy. And some of the current signs that we're seeing right now is very, very big investment in infrastructure. Consumption in India may be not growing as fast as we'd like it to be, but we're seeing big investment in infrastructure. And those are going to be extremely important to growth of India. The other thing, of course, is going to be digital and digital transformation. As you said, India has invested a tremendous amount in its digital transformation, including in its banking sector. But it continues to need to do so, as Arturo said. Without that, continued growth will be stalled. We're also seeing an incredible amount of talent in digital transformation and all these technologies. After all, India has recently put people on the has landed on the moon. Has not put people yet, but has put.
We'll probably do it by.
That's right. That's right. And let's face it, landed in a very difficult spot. Everybody always lands in the middle, right? You guys landed at the south, which is a very difficult place to land. So there's a really important set of advancement. And I think what we need to do next is really capitalize on this and take some of the recent developments that we're seeing in AI and bring them to market. Simply because this is where we've seen India excel in the past. We have a number of really amazing high-tech companies here, and so far they've focused on the lower parts of the value chain. But I think now what we're seeing, and particularly with the continued development of leaders and continued involvement in the development of technologies, that India can actually shine in grabbing market share in digital transformation for domestic uses, but also for global uses. And again, one of the things that we know about technology is if you get it right, if you really have amazing technology, then you can scale it up really quickly.
Professor Mohan, I'd like to ask you, what is the risk of not staying ahead in this race for AI? Especially, what is the risk to economic growth as a result of that?
I think, as I understand, I think currently, for example, people are using foundation models like ChatGPT as personal productivity tools. And I will tell you of an interesting anecdote which my friend, who is Professor Zhang Hongjiang, he's the chairman of Beijing AI Academy. He told me about an informal study they have done in China. If you are a mediocre programmer and if you use generative AI, you have a slight improvement in your productivity. If you are an average programmer, you have a much better improve in your productivity. But if you are a skilled programmer, your productivity just explodes. I mean, it goes, several orders of magnitude. So this is a tool which is coming. And given that IT industry is so important for India, and if the Indian workforce does not embrace AI productivity tools, I think there is a danger of being left behind.
So what about the debate between job losses and enhanced productivity, according to you?
So I think we had a lot of discussions in Singapore about this, and I think our consensus is the following. I think there is no danger of you being replaced by AI, but there's a real danger of you being replaced by somebody who is proficient in AI. And therefore, I think having this education and the skill level in the new tools is very important. And also, you need to have a reservoir of talent which can create your own models. India should not be dependent on OpenAI models, sending all the data out there, and then helping them create better models. Models for India should be created in India.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us. On that note, we take a short break, but don't go anywhere. When we return, we'll get you an exclusive conversation with the Austrian ambassador to India.
CNBC-TV18, embarking on a quarter century of excellence.